Okay, so if you can focus on what's called version 3 over here, that's what we'll look at first. Okay, so I have the 4 jacks and the 4 aces. So we can just randomly stack these. We'll turn them face down. Have the spectator decide how to stack those sets of 4. Now what we're going to do is something he calls a triangle deal. Okay, so we're going to go clockwise first and then counterclockwise for the second time through. So let me show you how this works. So you go 1, 2, 3, and we're moving in the direction that a clock would flow. When you're done with that, you pick up the first pile that you dealt and you go in counterclockwise direction. And believe it or not, it's converted that 2 sets of 4 of a kind to a Bessey sequence. I don't know how in the world he came up with this. Okay, so let me just carefully show that to you. Even though if you've been watching any of the videos in this series, you can immediately see that this is a Bessey sequence, but maybe you're jumping right to this one. Okay, so the basic structure of a Bessey sequence is either represented by X's and O's, if you prefer, or zeros and ones. We've been using the zeros and ones representation. Okay, so a Bessey sequence is the following: 1 0 0 1 0 1 1 0, and it ends up that if you have a packet of cards that conforms to this arrangement of the cards, it is invariant under dozens of shuffling procedures used today. So how do we check to see that this is a Bessey sequence? Well, what we're looking for is, in the end, the ones will be separated into one pile and the zeros into the other pile. So you can think of the ones as representing either jacks or kings, it doesn't matter, and then zeros will represent the opposite card value, jack or king. So right now what we're looking at is we can associate the jack with ones. So wherever a 1 is located, we're marking where a jack is. A 1 there, a jack here, 1 there, jack here. All of the zeros are marking the locations of the aces. Okay, so this is a true Bessey sequence. Now what that means then is we can put it through any of the many shuffles I've shown you in this series devoted to Bessey sequences. Now I'm going to confine myself to the ones that he happens to recommend in his write-up, because I don't want this to be a full review of the entire Bessey sequence series. It would just be too much to take in and it would take too long. Okay, so the one shuffle that he focuses on in this version 3 is the Australian shuffle. So what he says to do is go ahead and perform the Australian shuffle as many times as the spectator calls for. Okay, so if you haven't seen this before, the Australian shuffle is done as follows. It's down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down, under, down. The last one goes on top. That is an Australian shuffle. And so at this point, you would ask the spectator, would you like me to perform another one of those? Or you could even ask for a number, like perform it 3 times. It's a free choice. Once the spectator is persuaded that the order of the cards is beyond the knowledge of anybody, we will now go ahead and convert it from a Bessey sequence, because it still is. Let me just show you that. Australian shuffles preserve Bessey sequence structures, and so you can see that it's done that. We have an ace, 2 jacks between another ace, and then we have 2 jacks on the end with 2 aces in between. That is a Bessey sequence. So from here, to undo the Bessey structure, he recommends the following. Just perform the triangle deal a second time. Unbelievable. So you just go in clockwise orientation for your dealing, and then you pick up the first pile first and stack in the opposite orientation, which will now be counterclockwise. This is guaranteed to separate the packet into 2 sets of 4, so I'll just take the bottom 4 and the top 4, and we will now have separated the aces from the jacks. Absolutely remarkable. Okay, so that is the first one. It's called a triangle deal. Okay, so who would have ever thought that this dealing, which is very orderly and relatively easy to remember, would allow you to convert a packet such as this, 2 sets of 4 of a kind, into a Bessey sequence. Once there, you can mix until the cows come home. It won't hurt this. And then to get back to where you started, you perform the same triangle deal again. Unbelievable.